His breath was already on my neck before I could even react. One hand pressed my shoulder down onto the workbench, while the other tugged at my hips, like he'd done this before, like I'd let him. I didn't tell him to stop, but I didn't say yes either. The second one stepped in behind me while I was still catching my breath. His fingers slid up my side and gripped my ribs tightly, a silent question. I bit my lip. I didn't nod or move, but I didn't say no. And they took that as permission. You think you'll hate yourself afterward, but sometimes it's the pretending beforehand that leaves the deeper scar. It wasn't a decision, it was just a moment, and I didn't stop it. I'm 39, a mom, a wife. I host dinner parties, clip coupons, remember birthdays. And that night in a dimly lit garage with my husband snoring 2 walls away, I gave in to both of them. One was Brian, my husband's friend. Older, dependable, always fixing things around our house when Greg couldn't be bothered. The other was Caleb, our neighbor's son. 22, too smooth, too observant, and cocky in that way young men are before life humbles them. I should have felt disgusted. I should have pushed them away. I should have cared more than I did. But that night, I didn't. It started 2 weeks earlier. Greg and I had one of those arguments that sound trivial to outsiders. Something about who was supposed to pick up the dry cleaning, but really it was about everything else. The distance, the neglect, the way we both pretended the silence between us was comfortable. I didn't cry after. I didn't feel angry. I felt nothing. And that scared me more than anything. Brian came by the next day to fix the dryer. I wore a t-shirt that clung tighter than usual, not on purpose, not exactly. But I didn't change. He didn't say anything when I leaned over to hand him a wrench and my shirt pulled up. But I felt his eyes and I let them linger. 3 nights later, I caught Caleb watching me water the plants. I bent slower. He didn't look away. The first time the thought crossed my mind, I dismissed it like swatting at a fly. By the fifth time, I wondered how wrong it would really be if I just leaned in. The garage was supposed to be safe. Greg was inside watching sports. I went out to grab a soda from the fridge. Brian was already there, changing the air filter. Caleb followed me out, just helping, he said. We stood too close. No one moved away. I made a joke about how the garage felt warmer than my marriage bed. I shouldn't have said it, but once I did, Brian's hand brushed against my wrist. He didn't let go. My body froze, not from fear, but from how fast it betrayed me. The silence was heavy. Caleb was staring. I looked at both of them, then turned my back. I bent to grab a bottle from the lower shelf. That's when Brian touched me for the first time. Just a firm, heavy hand on my hip. I didn't stop him. When Caleb stepped forward and pressed close behind me, I let him. I told myself one of them would pull back. One of them would say, "This is wrong." Neither did. Why didn't I say anything? The worst part was, the weight of it felt comforting. I thought I knew where my boundaries were until someone stepped past them. What would you do if the person you were supposed to protect was the one you secretly craved? Brian kissed my shoulder first, not softly but firmly, like claiming. Caleb's hands trembled as he pushed my hair aside. His breathing was uneven, but neither hesitated once I didn't move away. The garage door creaked in the wind. The light flickered. I gripped the edge of the workbench so hard my knuckles turned white. They took turns, not with force, not with words, just with need, with hunger, and I let them. My forehead pressed against the cold metal as their rhythm changed. One stepped back, the other took his place. No one spoke. This isn't who I am. Then why do I feel more alive than I have in years? By the time it ended, I wasn't shaking. I was hollow. My lip bled from biting it too hard. I didn't clean up right away. I didn't sneak back inside. I just stood there in the garage, smelling like them. When I finally walked back in, no one noticed. You can want someone and hate yourself for it at the same time. If that sentence makes your chest tighten, this story knows why. Like and subscribe. No judgment, just the truth. The next morning, Greg kissed my cheek like always, as if nothing had changed, as if his wife hadn't been bent over a workbench 12 hours earlier by two men who weren't him. He asked if I could grab eggs from the store later. I nodded. I stirred my coffee. I didn't taste it. I should have thrown up. I should have cried in the shower. But all I felt was silence inside me. I didn't go to the store. I sat in the parked car with the windows up, letting the heat fill the space until I couldn't breathe properly. The thing no one tells you about infidelity is that the guilt doesn't scream. At first, it hums low, constant, like a refrigerator running in the background of your thoughts. Brian texted me around noon. "You okay?" I didn't reply. Caleb didn't text, but I caught him watching me later from across the street, not smug, not guilty, just waiting. Our house sits on a quiet block. Cookie-cutter lawns. Everyone waves as they pass. From the outside, I look like someone with nothing to run from. I used to feel lucky. Now I feel trapped in a life that doesn't need me to feel anything just to show up. Greg works in finance, leaves early, comes home tired. We used to talk about things that mattered. Now we discuss laundry, HOA updates, whose turn it is to walk the dog. The last time he touched me without being prompted, I don't even remember. Maybe last summer when we stayed at that inn near the lake. Even then, it felt polite, like maintenance. I stopped asking for more, stopped expecting anything. I think that's what made the garage happen. Not lust, not rebellion, just starvation. The next evening, I found myself folding laundry in the hallway, staring at the same shirt of Greg's I'd washed 3 times now. Stains never came out right, I never told him. Brian stopped by again, just checking the water pressure. I didn't invite him in, but I didn't shut the door either. He stood in the doorway, unsure if he should speak first, so I did. I said, "You shouldn't have done that." He looked down, then at me. "You didn't stop me." I hated how true that was. Before he left, he lightly touched my arm. Just fingers, no pressure. It still made my stomach drop. Caleb wasn't around that day, but I could feel the absence of his gaze. I sat alone on the couch that night while Greg watched baseball. He didn't ask how my day was, didn't even notice I hadn't eaten. The quiet wasn't peaceful, it was proof. Proof that I could vanish from this marriage, and he wouldn't know until the dishes piled up. 2 nights later, I saw Caleb in the backyard messing with the sprinkler head. I walked out, arms crossed. "Did you need something?" He looked up, startled, then smiled. "That night," he said, "you were shaking." "I don't want to talk about it," I replied too quickly. But I didn't go back inside. I stayed, arms crossed, watching him, watching me. "I didn't think you'd let us," he said, voice low. "But you did." I didn't answer. Then, softer, "Did it feel good?" That's when I finally moved. I turned and walked away without a word. Back inside, I locked the door. But I couldn't stop thinking about what I'd almost said. Yes, too good. Later that night, Greg rolled over in bed and muttered, "You okay?" I said, "Yeah." He kissed my shoulder without opening his eyes. I stared at the ceiling, remembering Caleb's question. Did it feel good? God help me, it did. Sometimes you do the wrong thing just to feel something again. If you've ever felt more seen in a mistake than in your own marriage, don't look away. Like and subscribe. Someone else is nodding right now.